This is the Sonoff NSPanel, and we've met before. I already had one of these, although it was white, and I ended up having to go through a rather involved process to get it to work with my Home Assistant or any other device of mine not supported by the eWeLink app. I could have gone through the process of fiddling with it more to get it all to work together again, or wait for the developer to update the module, but why? I don't want to spend my time hacking all of my devices or manually hobbling a clumsy update along as though it were a Bethesda game on Windows Vista. If I'm going to do anything, it's build a touchscreen control panel from scratch using a Raspberry Pi. For the record, I've never been a fan of the mount a tablet approach, but this is also an option. So, why am I even talking about the NSPanel again? Well, Sonoff sent me this panel to review, and they sent it with something else that may have changed my mind. This is the NSPanel enclosure, a very simple and even elegant upright mounting option for the NSPanel and NSPanel Pro. The NSPanel is designed to be installed as a light switch replacement in the original light switch box, so this enclosure makes it possible to have a freestanding panel. How could this simple thing change my mind? Well, it looks good. It looks so good, I'm willing to use it completely independent of my smart home system. But I'm getting ahead of myself. This is a review, so let me put up the grading system for the uninitiated. I will score these categories with a number from 0 to 4, which then gets multiplied by the category's weight, and all the categories are totaled for a final percentage. The percentage grade scale is based on a bunch of testing with various values and combinations to ensure there would be no high marks for bad devices or low marks for good ones. I was not paid or coerced in any way to give this product a positive review. I was given the product free of charge for the purpose of review and nothing more. When I first saw the enclosure, I actually got a little excited about setting this thing up. The enclosure has a large enough area inside for all the wiring and cord retention I may need, and it's well ventilated in case the panel gets warm keeping the screen lit or something. There's a fairly good sized slot you can pass wires and cords through at the back, and on the bottom are rubber traction pads that work quite well. I had this old lamp cord lying around, and I thought it would be perfect for this. If you do the same sort of thing, remember to use a polarized plug, one with a big and little blade, and that the little blade is hot. On most cords like this one, the hot is also the wire with the writing or markings on it. The screw terminals on the back of the NSPanel are good. They're just a set screw and collar, but the threads are solid and the depth is pretty good. The NSPanel itself is a very sturdy device. The face lifts off for mounting, and then it's just a matter of running 2 screws through the holes in the back plate. That's it for the hardware. Simple. I'll add to this later, but for now, let's move on to setting up the device. If the device isn't in pairing mode, holding both buttons for a while, maybe 10 or 15 seconds, will put the device into pairing mode. In the eWeLink app, add a device, choose to connect a different way, then Bluetooth pairing, and it should scan and discover the device. Like the previous review, I tried to use this device on my internal smart home network that isn't connected to the internet. Even though it would never get the time, I think the device itself wouldn't have had much issue being without the internet. Until I hit the update button, sending the device permanently into updating mode. I tried long pressing the buttons to go into pairing mode, and I tried unplugging it and plugging it back in to no avail. I wound up using the reset tool I got from the Zigbee bridge to factory reset the panel. Then I went ahead and put the device on my guest network so it could receive updates and possibly send data of some kind elsewhere. At one point, I had to restart the device, and when I did, it flipped back to updating mode again until I unplugged it again and plugged it back in. It's been more or less fine since that, but that was still a bit odd. Now the panel is showing the outside temperature, which it's getting from somewhere I haven't looked into yet, and it's showing the proper time and temperature in the room. The buttons aren't really useful because there's nothing connected to the outputs on the back, and there's no way to reassign their functions as of yet, but I'll be using them later. The display is nice and bright, and this little thing does not take up much room at all. And that is why I decided to turn it into a nightstand display with 2 switchable plugs. Sharing the neutral from the power cord and using the two hot out terminals, I added my extension plugs, and all of a sudden it's a neat little gadget. I have a low light lamp on my nightstand, so I can see to move around without disturbing my wife that this is perfect for. I'll have another plug I'm not sure what to do with, but I was thinking about putting a fan on it. I'm not sure if it'll be happy with that, so I'll have to report back to you. There are plenty of ways of doing something similar to this that don't cost quite as much, but I really like the look and feel, and I think it's perfectly convenient. Plus, I'm not connecting it to my smart network. I put it on a guest network that is isolated from my main network, but still has limited internet access. It's not exactly cloudless, and not everyone can do what I've done with the guest network, but I'll still count it as being useful. Another reason I like this, besides just the look, is that it's a really well-built thing. It feels substantial, and I bet it'll take a few knocks. Again, I'll have to report back on that. The long and short of it is that I've not only decided I like this thing, I've decided to make it something I use every day, and that's pretty valuable. It's a bit of a stretch, but I think it's worth giving some props to Sonoff for this thing. On that note, it's time to score and grade. First up is packaging. Like the Zigbee bridge and water valve, the packaging is elegantly simple but fiendishly unforgiving when you're trying to open it. So, like the others, I'm giving it a 2, average. Next is the user manual. This one didn't require a microscope to read, so that's already a plus. And as far as the information you need to set up and operate the device, it's all pretty easy to follow. I'll give the user manual a 3. Good, but not the best. Now, appearance. Like most Sonoff devices, this thing looks good. I think it might be one of the best looking Sonoff devices, and in the enclosure, I'm even more happy with it. This gets an easy 4 for appearance. Ease of setup. Despite the weird upgrade thing, which I likely caused trying to put the device on a network not connected to the internet, setting this one up was pretty easy. I still had to make more than one attempt to connect to it, but it was certainly better than the water valve. I'll give it a 3, not the best, but still above average. Durability is another easy win for Sonoff. I'm starting to really pay attention to their devices simply because they're heftier than many other brands, and that's worth something. This touchscreen feels like I could let my 5-year-old grandson jab at it for a bit, and it'd come out unscathed. That's a solid 4 in my book. Firmware. I was unimpressed with the firmware of the Zigbee bridge and water valve because of the amount of times they became unresponsive or lost connection. There should be some fallback beyond just an automatic rolling channel for the Zigbee radio. This device, however, has a few firmware features that I like. Some are trivial. I like the simple interface for setting the orientation, and the swipes are always instantaneous. I like the colors and fonts they've chosen, too, though I wish they'd give you more than just 2 themes. Lastly, and least importantly, I absolutely love the splash screen and logo animation. It's useless and you only see it rarely, but it's very cool in a 90s PC BIOS sort of way, and I like that. Firmware is a 3. It does what it should, but you might have to restart it if it gets rowdy. Cloudless capability. Well, it's not any more cloudless than the bridge or water valve, but I also don't mind letting it get some information about the weather and such, so long as it's not near my important machines. So I'll give it 1 point for being partly cloudy with a chance of sunshine. Ease of use. Well, swipe down for settings like a phone, swipe left or right to carousel through widgets and thermostat settings, and push buttons to toggle switches. I'd say that's pretty much perfect. I'll give it a 4 for not being convoluted when it very well could have been. Security. Still not sure about storing or sending sensitive network information over the internet, and I'm still not sure this thing isn't sniffing my network for sweet data. I did run a packet capture on it for a couple of hours through my firewall, and I didn't see anything I could readily identify as being sneaky, so I'll give them 1 point for that. Probably not spying on you, but even if it is, it's only as competent about it as every other company that's spying on you. Finally, safety. In the time I've been testing the device, it hasn't heated up to an alarming degree, shocked me, sparked, smoked, or filled the room with disco lighting. so I'll give it a 4. It's safe to install, safe to use, and it might even be safe to lick, but not where the wires connect. That brings our total weighted percentage to 63, a C+, slightly above average. If it had a local cloudless option, it would be the single best smart home interface product in the world. But as it does not, it's just short of glory. If you found this video to be just tall of glory, why not let YouTube know by striking the like button swiftly with your cursor? If you don't ever want to fall just short of glory yourself, subscribe to the channel for more glorious content. And if you want all the glory these folks possess, which is abundant and sweet, you might even consider becoming a member. This is my bag of Shelly, and I'll be digging into it in the next video. So I hope you'll join me for that as I continue exploring smarter circuits.